and I just noticed heads turning and looking at me with like warm smiles. Smiles from men and smiles from women. It was as if the world was just more pleasant to me.
So we are about to delve into the story of Nikhil. He also goes under the pseudonym of Captain Sindbad. You can check him out on YouTube. He talks about the power of Nofap, self-development, and he likes to focus on much more mystical and esoteric side of things. So he brings all sorts of different sources that tell you the story of semen retention and how it actually translates into a vital force that can be then applied to pretty much any effort of your life. So we're gonna talk about Captain Sindbad's story, how he discovered this practice, what sort of benefits it brought him, how it helps him along the journey of becoming an actor, and we're gonna end it up with the mystical, esoteric approach. And I hope you're gonna enjoy this episode, and I hope it's gonna inspire you to undertake that practice, because for me and for many others, this is the very foundation, the fundamental first step in your own personal growth, your way of, detaching from the matrix that our society is, as we are so focused around pleasures and getting as much pleasure as we can from the world. But this is a different point of view. How can you actually give and be fulfilled from within? How you can use all those different energies, you can bring them to the table, and you can actually make things happen for yourself. So without further ado, this is Captain Sindbad.
Yeah, so before I started Nofap, I was a chemistry major in college, and then I worked as a chemistry teacher in Los Angeles for 2.5 years. I had been pursuing acting on the side, but I really didn't have any way of breaking through, and I had a lot of anxiety about auditioning and performing. Early on, about January through April of 2017, I was actually in consideration for the role of Aladdin. There's this live-action Aladdin movie coming out next May that Disney's doing, like a really like $1 billion big budget movie, and I was one of the guys who was like constantly getting videos sent in for that. I have like 6 audition tapes that I'd sent in for that role. Wow. And Disney flew me out to London to give like a final audition for Lucinda Sison casting alongside some other like mostly unknowns, but a few like pretty big names, like the boy Arabia was in it. And I don't know what struck me in that moment, but when I had gone in to give that audition, I had about a week before I had to go in and do my screen test. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to jerk off for this week. I don't know why I felt that was the right thing to do, but I was like, I need to like hold on to like a lot of aggression and like the ability to be present. So I feel like I had the understanding within me at the weird time in my life where so much was at stake. Like if I would have booked a job, then I could have been like really on the map as an actor.
Right.
And I went into the audition. I was extremely stressed out. I gave it. And before I was like going to take my flight back to Los Angeles, and I had like a Airbnb right next to the airport, I just like went on this fab session, like this monster break because I was so stressed out and like this really stressful activity had just been over. And I went back and someone else got the job, and I don't know what it was that I was at such a low in my life because I was leaving my job as a teacher to try to pursue acting full time. The auditions weren't coming in, and a strange thing happened where I saw the face of the guy who ended up getting the part. And I just thought to myself, like, I need something that can really help me unleash everything that's within me. I need something that can help me break through all the noise that's in my head and all my talent as an actor, which I feel I have a very sufficient amount of. I I can't, my presence isn't felt right now. And then like just as I was already intrinsically within myself, I did like this weird week-long attempt at doing Nofap, and in that week noticed crazy benefits, just like people smiling at me and stuff. And then I broke it with a monster binge session and felt like shit afterwards. But there was that moment once I didn't get that job, that utterly getting so close to getting something pretty insane and then losing it and feeling as if I was totally lost. And it just, I don't know, maybe it was a God or some like super conscious insight. But I just thought to myself, I need to do this discipline. And then it's like immediately on YouTube, it started coming up as my recommended videos. Seth Alexander was the first video I saw on Nofap, his 3-year What Changed My Life motivational video. And it was like, I mean, God speaking to me through Seth, which is a really weird thing to say because that guy doesn't even know who I am. And it's a weird thing now because sometimes I get comments like that on my YouTube channel. Like I was really depressed and then I saw your video, but I can totally relate with that feeling because July 2017, I was on the other side of that, getting so close to something big. And then around August 2017, I started watching Life Gains with Greg's videos, and I was just like, I need to try this. And it really like rocked my world. I think it has been the singular best thing that's happened to me in like the last 8 years.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like all those guys have a influence on each other. Like you're kind of like friends with them, but even though they don't know you. And now I started to reaching out to a bunch of guys and obviously yourself as well. I did not know that story actually about you being so close to a pretty good breakthrough that if you got there, I'm sure in your mind you were like already being an Aladdin, already having your acting career skyrocketing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had such a great Oscar speech in my mind, just like getting ready for that role. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so humble in the speech. And then it was like a reality check afterwards. I mean, it really was a testament to the fact that if you want to dream so big, and like I believe in the law of attraction, I talk a lot about it on my channel. But I really feel like if you want to dream that big and if you want to unleash like a degree of creativity within you, you really need to show up in the best, with the best that you have with strong disciplines. And I really do think like Nofap, semen retention. I'm not even a Nofapper. I'm a no blower, semen retention is the singular like best thing you can do to just be kind of like, I don't know, tapping into your king energy.
Semen
I love that point you made. That point you made about, like it's a weird thing. This is kind of a strange thing to connect over. But if someone else believes in this, then it's like you already have so much in common that you can sort of understand.
Yeah. Because it comes, it comes in a package. Like the semen retention / Nofap comes with this whole idea of pursuing your goals and figuring out your life mission. Because otherwise, what would be your motivation to even undertake this? Yeah,
you're willingly giving up the best sensory pleasure possible, so you must be a pretty open-minded and pretty like passionate person.
Yeah. Anyway, this brings me to the next point, which is what are the benefits that you experienced, let's say, in all different areas of life?
Definitely. Yeah, so I started my first attempt in August 2017, and my first streak lasted about 28 days. And between August and April is when I launched my first YouTube video. My average streak landed between 28 and like 50 days on average over those series of months. And I felt benefits within 7 days. I started noticing some benefits. And by 14 days, it was like everything started to change. The first thing I noticed was like I didn't realize the extent of this, but I had a lot of anxiety when I was in Los Angeles because I was auditioning and getting rejected and constantly being judged for my looks. That's part of the domain that comes with this career. I think I harbored a lot of unconscious, subconscious anxiety and like shame about, I don't know, just my performance. And a strange, like arrogant, charismatic, dirty confidence. It was like a lot of different energies. It was just energy. And it manifested. First thing I noticed is that it manifested in the audition room. When I would go to audition rooms, there'd be like a lot of hot girls there, and there'd be a lot of like buff, handsome dudes in the room with me, and I just noticed heads turning and looking at me with like warm smiles. Smiles from men and smiles from women. It was as if the world was just more pleasant to me. And so it was just like looks, just feelings. You can just tell when, you know, LA is a pretty like pretentious, douchey town, dare I say. And people are always trying to let other people know that they're somebody.
Yeah.
And I was always like nobody in LA. And I was in LA for about 3 months before I left. I did an acting workshop in Mumbai after that. And it was like the first time where I didn't need to prove myself to other people. It just came off of my energy. And the first thing I noticed was in the audition room, girls were staring at me and guys were staring at me. And the casting director would be more kind to me. It was like strange. I think I might be someone who noticed an especially strong number of benefits right away. Maybe is why I'm so like insanely passionate about this. But that was one benefit. And then the other thing I noticed was I could be in posh circles. Like I would be going out in posh circles in like LA crowds. One of my friends, I don't know, aunt was super wealthy. Their house looked like the Wayne Manor. And I was the most popular guy at these parties that they had. So generally speaking, the biggest benefit that I noticed was just like kindness and friendliness from the world at large.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I feel drawn to say this right now because it's really late at night for me when we're doing this podcast, and I think it's midday, early for you. It's 11:11. Another thing that I've noticed all the time is I see angelic numbers all the time. And I never used to believe in this sort of thing, but I always see these like series of numbers that relate to good omens, like a sense of auspiciousness coming into one's life. And I feel I need to do more research on that because I see angelic numbers all the time as well. By the way, man, if I ever end up rambling, just cut me off and go on to the next topic because I feel like I'm just going on and on about something.
No, man, it's all relevant to the subject at hand. I've actually never really, I'm still not really believing in those angelic numbers stuff, but I didn't really know much about it enough. But I've seen enough people saying this, so maybe it's time to look it up.
Yeah, I mean, I was the guy who would roll my eyes at stuff like that. The angelic numbers, like, dude, shut the fuck up. But I don't know. I am becoming a little more like esoteric minded with time. I'm finding that to be true within myself.
Right. Okay. So we got the number one benefit for you, and I definitely can confirm that it's true for myself as well, is the friendliness from the world. And that probably comes from the fact that you feel more at ease with yourself. You have this paradoxical intention where you are more results driven, but in the same time more detached from the outcome. And I feel this is where this sort of energy of just taking action, not really caring as much about the results, eliminates all sorts of neediness that can be felt, and that's why the world might be more drawn to you, because you exude this gravitational pull. And that's how I see it. And the great microcosm of this, well, you experience a number of different microcosms of those situations. For me, it would be mostly the nightclub. When you go to a nightclub, let's say you do, you talk with girls, they tend to be friendlier. A lot of girls tend to kind of look at you and smile. And now we're kind of like segueing into the women attraction stories, by the way. So I wanted to tell you, like a couple of days ago, I went to a club, and obviously my main intention was to just have fun. But I would, let's say, go to a dance floor and just enjoy myself and dance, and without paying any particular attention to any girls. And then sooner, like maybe 2-3 minutes into this, a girl just comes to me and she's grabbing me which normally would not happen because probably I wouldn't be motivated to just go and dance for no reason because I wouldn't feel so good. Also, I don't drink or smoke, so that's another factor. And what was funny is that as this happened, another dude came to the picture trying to pick this girl up. And he was like more buffed, probably more handsome. But because he had this energy about him that was like, you know, like scanning for the environment for only hot girls, just kind of like having this predatory mindset that he was trying to get something out of this girl, she just ended up dismissing him completely and just paid more attention to me. Now, granted, I didn't do anything with this girl because I didn't like her that much. That's another thing. My like standards went up really high, and I don't really feel like I need to, you know, any girl that likes me, I need to like do something about it. So you feel much more of this abundance, and this happened in one night twice. Right? So there's definitely something to that. And when on FAP, so to speak, I would go out and try. I would be that guy who was basically rejected by that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you and women attraction stories?
Yeah. I mean, I just I can't even tell you how much of a change that whole thing was. Women attraction was very difficult for me. I was actually like fairly striving with women attraction back in the day. I would go to clubs and I would do cold approaches. Like I would approach girls. I was funny. I did my best to be charming, but I think I did give off like a sick desperation, you know, like really like I don't know, results oriented approach to talking to girls.
Yeah.
And I was really unsuccessful generally. Oftentimes I don't know. I feel there's so much evolutionary psychology that's involved with women attraction that's that immediate. You know, like a nightclub scenario, I think taps into a lot of evolutionary psychology because it's so fast. It's not like they're getting to know you or anything. It's like body, dark room, loud. You have to like draw their attention, and so it's kind of like a jungle. And, it was really hard for me before, and afterwards. Now I will say once I started Nofap, I didn't really do the nightclub scene that much anymore. It was just very hard to sustain a semen retention lifestyle with staying up late and drinking. Which is like you don't have to do that in nightclub. You can definitely do like sober night game or whatever.
That's why I don't drink. Now you know myself enough that if I would get drunk, I would probably not resist the temptation. If I would, let's say, be frustrated after not picking, you know, not pulling a girl, I'd probably be like,
Exactly. Yeah. If you're drunk and you're horny and you get sad, you'll probably jerk off. So. So yeah, I don't do that scene anymore, but I did notice like I probably went on between that 8 months before I got my girlfriend and had that my last streak was 8.5 months hard mode. Before I got my girlfriend, I probably went on like 30 dates and I had about 11 to 15 semi-casual relationships, not relationships, but girls I was constantly engaging with. And I don't say that to boast at all. I just say that to like show that I myself am shocked at that shift and how I pulled that off. Some of these girls were really beautiful, maybe women who I thought previously would have been out of reach for me. It's a strange thing. I also noticed that when I was in the company of those dates, I could make crude jokes or like offensive jokes and they would find it hilarious. Whereas before, when I was doing semen retention, even if I was completely politically correct, they would correct me all the time. They'd be like, no, don't call me a girl, call me a woman. It was like, I was constantly corrected, It was really frustrating to me. And now I could literally be like, oh, you're such a dumb bitch. Which, I mean, I don't like stand by those statements, but I could literally be like, oh, you're such a slutty whore. And she'd be like, oh my God, you're so funny. Like, I don't know why it is, but I can get away with a lot more. I think maybe the energy. Yeah.
I think it's because you're more grounded. Like the more you ground it, the more you can get away with. And if you're like, they can sense that you're flimsy and they can like really push you down, and you say those things, it's like, then they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I guess that is that concept of like the shit test is where they just need to check that you were like biologically strong, and so they'll like try to give you these mini tests. But
if you deliver it in a really confident way, they don't even need to do the shit test because they can see.
That's true. Very good point. Yeah, I guess I don't get those very much anymore. But like I think also what's a part of that groundedness is that you're not results oriented anymore.
Yeah.
Not as much anyway. You're like, yeah, you're a beautiful woman. So what? Like, I have my personal ambitions. It's like, I said this in my video, and a lot of people called me arrogant for saying this, but it's like, you're lucky that I'm talking to you. And I honestly often have felt that way. Not in the sense that I don't respect the person. I definitely respect a woman more than ever now than I had, whole life. But it's really from that sense of like, it's a playful conversation. And I'm not necessarily like, it's not like trying to get from A to B. I do remember like one of the most interesting kind of like times that I drew a woman into my life while doing semen retention was at a party, a really enormous party. And there was oddly enough, this really old man there, like someone's grandpa was just like sitting in a corner because she didn't know what to do with him, I guess. It was a strange scenario, but it was a happy party. And I remember I was talking to this gorgeous girl. And then I took a break from her to talk to this old guy because he just seemed kind of lonely. And I got into this oddly spiritual conversation with him. We were both sober. And he said, I'm so glad I came here because meeting you was worth coming here for. And I just thought to myself, like, my energy is in such a unique place where I can leave a beautiful girl and know that she'll be there for me. And I can talk to this guy just to be a person of service, just to connect with the soul. And feel amazing about it. And then I went back and I talked to that girl, and she sort of witnessed that conversation take place, and she asked me about it, and we took off from there. So I guess I haven't been very specific about it, but generally speaking, the words flow so easy around women, and like I can just, I don't know, it's like they turn to you more. I don't get ignored as much. So the women attract me there, and there was definitely a period before April where I was really committing to a hard mode lifestyle, where I was kind of just enjoying that scene, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, are you still on semen retention, meaning that when you do have sex, you don't ejaculate? Or
absolutely.
Do your best not to?
I think,
or not too much?
I think there's just a strange augmented level of power on semen retention. I honestly, from a neuroscience point of view, Nofap is incredibly healthy, and you can continue to ejaculate with a woman from just a neuroscience point of view, because having healthy sex isn't like damaging to your dendritic connections and the gray matter in your brain like porn is. But from an esoteric, vibrational, creative powerhouse source, I feel like semen retention is the real secret. And if you have ambitions as an artist or an entrepreneur, I feel like that is really the secret to unlocking everything that you want to achieve. And I haven't been perfect. But I have been excellent. That is a fair assumption to say. I've only had maybe 2 or 3 releases in the last 10 months.
Yeah, well, that's definitely. I don't think you should be completely not release at all. There's more like about finding a cycle for yourself where you allow. Let's say I tried this one that I already told you, 90 days of semen retention and then 7 days of regular sex, and then we'll see where that takes me. But I think there's enough of energy stored during those days that you should not be too worried about it.
I completely agree. If you've gone on a long streak and you had 1 or 2 releases or a couple of releases, it's not like you're back to zero. It's not like all the transmuted power that you've had over those 3 or 4 months is nullified just by a couple of releases. And I do think that you make an amazing point about how if the energy can get stagnant if you just continue to just harness and harness and harness in some people. And I do find like Careza, like if I were to go pure hard mode, like I don't even have any sexual thoughts, I think that would be good for enlightenment, but it might actually cause that energy to be stagnant in me if I don't have any stimulation. So I do practice Careza with my girlfriend. And,
and for anyone who doesn't know what Careza is, it's basically slow sex that emphasizes the intimacy and connection with a slow penetration, and the outcome of ejaculation and reaching orgasm is kind of not there. You're supposed to just enjoy the moment, and then once your intimacy needs are satisfied, you can lean back. And some people may think it's going to cause you blue balls, and they're totally right. but
Yeah.
but it can actually, you can sort of, train yourself to unhook yourself from the need to orgasm, and then you can take control over that and be on a cycle. Like women are on a menstrual cycle, just like guys could be like an ejaculation cycle. And
Fair point.
that's how I see it, at least. Okay, so let's talk about this, because you mentioned a little bit about the esoteric and mystical part of it. You're by descent, you're Indian, and you talk a lot about brahmacharya and old sages of India and what the scriptures say. I feel you bring quite a lot of that side of things to your channel. So I would like you to maybe tell me a little bit more about that part of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, it's funny that this discipline is kind of like in the hush-hush of many spiritual traditions, and it permeated a lot of weird cultures. I think one really notable place for this is fighters. Fighters are or most athletes are told not to have sex before a fight. And even like the band Metallica, the lead singer of Metallica tells his musicians to not have sex for 2 nights before a concert.
Oh, no way. James Hetfield. Holy shit.
Yeah. So it is this like weird kind of, until very recently, I'd say, until the Nofap movement really started to gain some sort of limelight, I feel it has been on the quiet corners of many traditions and many, facets of, modern life. In Christianity, there's a concept known as the sacred secretion, which I'm planning on talking about at some point, about the Christ energy being an oil, a sacred oil that starts at your pineal gland and travels up and down your spine. I mean, that sounds like very similar to the concept of brahmacharya. In the Polynesian concept, there is a term known as mana, the vital force that builds up in magnetic fields and within certain people with divine strength, with a degree of power. That's there. In the Viking culture, there's a concept known as vril, a life force energy within like really great warriors of Vikings. Within Greek mythos, there's a concept known as thumos. When Homer was going on the Odyssey, he spoke to thumos. He spoke to this masculine spiritual force, vital force. That's the term that really has been in a lot of literature: vital force, vital energy, creative continent energy. And so I've noticed this within my own tradition, and I'm starting, as I kind of learn more and more about this, the sprinklings of it are in a lot of different mythos. And I find that incredibly intriguing because I draw a lot of inspiration from that. Obviously, one of the biggest text inspirations and sages who are of influence to me is Swami Sivananda. I don't know if you've read this sort of PDF that there is online about it, the practice of brahmacharya. But it basically talks about how, a man who can retain the vital energy, that jewel of fluid, he can have fame, glory, power, wealth, spiritual strength, honesty, integrity, patience, strength. They hum around that man like bees drawn to honey. He uses this incredible language to describe the traits that are embodied in someone who retains his vital energy. Another great saint, Swami Vivekananda, he died very young, but he was known to have been a celibate for 12 years to awaken a special nerve in his brain so that he could have these incredible superconscious hunches. Another text that I've been really, really drawn to within, the facets of Hinduism is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. In that text, there's a certain line, Brahmacharya Pratishtayam Virya Labh, which means by the practice of celibacy, by the practice of semen retention, power is attained. Virya, power. And so it seems too perfect to me that all of these mythic texts would all speak to this same vital force energy. And for me, it really lends a lot of credence, a lot of truth to this being real. Not just in like your dopamine receptors are reset, but in a vibrational, esoteric, spiritual force sort of way. I feel like there are benefits. And so obviously I feel like even at my level, I've been doing this for about a little over a year and 3 months. And I've been doing it imperfectly. I've been doing it excellently, but imperfectly in that time. I can only feel the inklings of it. I don't know it fully, but it does excite me, that esoteric side of things.
Yeah, man. And well, that's what one of the hallmarks of our culture now is, that we are sort of lost in stimulation, and hedonistic lifestyle seems to be put on pedestal. So this is, and one of the hallmarks of hedonistic lifestyle itself is glorifying pleasure. Pleasure coming from sexual stimulation, money, fame, all those things that sort of can deplete you and are very fleeting and are external. Now, the cultures, all the different cultures you mentioned, they did not have those sort of distractions, so they can really contemplate those things on the level of first-hand experience. And even though, they didn't have a scientific method like we do have today, I think that there are limitations to even scientific method when it comes to trying to describe the inner experience and the esoteric and mystical and vibrational stuff. I mean, quantum physics is slowly uncovering those things, but you don't have to wait for the breakthrough in science to tap into this potential and confirm it, because you can feel it for yourself, and then it would be a weird coincidence that all those cultures talk about this, and they have their own version and different terminology for it, but essentially it's the vital force. Right. So
man.
Yeah, that's the thing. Cool, man. It's great to talk to you, and I'd love to let people know where they can find you if they would like to learn more of your perspective on the Nofap semen retention and just being an overall badass.
Yeah. My channel is Captain Sindbad. Captain spelled the normal way, and Sindbad Sinbad. So you can find me there.
Cool, awesome. Any last words? Or we covered pretty much.
If you're contemplating this lifestyle, it's the best thing. One of the best things that's happened to me. So I mean, once 14 days, give it a try. It could really rock your world.
So I guess by this time you realize that there's been quite a few people talking about the practice of semen retention / Nofap, and for a very good reason. And this reason is basically that I believe that there is a lot on the internet that you can learn. Pretty much everything is out there. Not a single bit of information is withheld from you. But it is still not mainstream enough, not spoken enough, not enough people give it enough importance, and not enough people take it seriously. A lot of people dismiss it as a bro science, something that maybe works for some and doesn't work for others. But the thing is that porn and masturbation, excessive masturbation, tears the very fabric of our society. And we live in the time of incredible potential that is being squashed by, practices of self-indulgence. And I don't want to sound like some righteous prick. I simply wanted you to realize that there are dormant powers lying within you that you might be just spilling them out into the tissue. It gives you maybe 5 to 10 seconds of intense pleasure, but the price you pay for doing that, if you do it frequently, is pretty big. And to be honest, right now, porn became so accepted that if you were to find, let's say, men who don't do porn, they are so rare that it's almost impossible to do a study, because it would be impossible for you to find test subject, control test subject, to figure out how porn affects brain. Sort of like, imagine a society that everyone smokes cigarettes from like the age of 18, and it's just normal that everyone eventually gets lung cancer. And people are like, yeah, I guess this is what happens at a certain age, you kind of get the lung cancer. But we never really questioned that maybe cigarettes are the cause of it, just because it became so socially accepted. And to be honest, that was the case in 1960s. Anyways, I want you to take this seriously, because what porn does to our brains is crime. And I just wanted to put it out there. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you've been inspired by Captain Sindbad's story. And if that's not enough to inspire you, there's going to be a point in your life where life is going to get so shitty that the pain of continuing using porn and excessive masturbation is going to be a lesser than pain of not doing it. So basically, there's going to be a polarity switch. You're going to realize that the pain that it brings you is much greater than the pleasure. And you will have to dig yourself out of the hole. But it's up to you. And I hope it's not going to have to get to that point. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.